August 25th.
That's not gonna do anything. Yeah, that's what I have.
Ron, yeah, let's give it a couple minutes.
I paid a lot of money for those.
Yeah, what do I do? Just do I get rid of that or what?
You can maybe minimize that.
I just had one made that's black and white.
Sean C, I don't know who that is.
That's Sean Clark. He just sent me a text, actually.
Okay.
He said that he's trying to get on, but he doesn't have a microphone. He's from up north of Pleasantville.
He can dial, he can do his phone and then do, yeah.
He said, on the text he just sent, he said, hey Jason, it's Sean Clark. I will be on the Zoom meeting, but I do not have
Does it make no difference if you
on my
can?
desktop computer. But I wanted to let you know that there are several of us out in my area that are absolutely for the UTV deal. Can you speak for us, or should I have Forget do it? I said I will read it.
Awesome.
So it's red.
Okay, I gotta unmute us too.
Just run right across the street with 3M.
Well, you just did what I just
Are we ready?
did. Did you just hear
Good
that?
morning, yep.
I
You sure
know.
ready?
Mine is, yeah, mine
It's
is.
8:59.
All right, we'll go ahead and get started.
Oh.
Well, good morning. We will call this regular meeting of the Marion County Board of Supervisors to order. Roll call. Jake?
Keisha Johnner,
Here.
Mark Ramey,
Here?
Steve McCombs.
Here.
Very good, thank you. I would entertain a motion on this morning's agenda.
Make motion to approve today's agenda.
Second.
McCombs,
Aye.
Ramey,
Aye.
Johnner.
Aye.
Very good. Jake, any communications received?
Not this time, no sir.
Okay, very good, thank you. Public comments. This is the portion of our agenda the public can speak on items not listed on this morning's agenda. The board cannot act on those items, but they could become topics for future Board of Supervisor meetings. Are there any public comments, items not on this morning's agenda? Hearing none, we'll move on. We'll entertain a motion on this morning's consent agenda.
Make motion to approve today's consent agenda.
Second.
Johnner.
Aye.
McCombs,
Aye.
Ramey.
Aye. Very good. On to business. First item is a discussion and action item for an amended city county planning zoning 28E agreement. We've had a group working on this with the city of Pella, an agreement that dates back a number of years that needed some revisions. So Tyler, I don't know if you want to bring everybody up to speed on where the group is at in that process.
Yep, so like you said, 2011 was the original 2080 agreement, I believe. And August of 2019, Marion County Board of Supervisors sent a letter to the city of Pella on behalf of the staff's recommendations to recommend some amendments and revisions to the planning and zoning 2080, specifically the extraterritorial area that was defined as a 2-mile region around the city of Pella. In August 2020, we received a reply from the city of Pella with their comments about those amendments. And so recently staff, including myself, Missy, Ed, and Bridget met to discuss the comments we've received from the city of Pella and how to possibly move forward. So there were a couple things that came out of that meeting, and I'll let Missy jump in at any time if she's on, because the majority of this revolves around planning and zoning. However, there were some environmental health and some secondary road issues included in the 2080. But some of the highlights that we wanted to point out with the revisions that Pella has proposed and the 2080 as we propose, it won't address all the concerns. There will always be some details that will have to be worked out between city and county staff, some technical details. And even though it doesn't address all the concerns, you know, let's say Pella scratched some things out in what we had proposed. So it doesn't address that anymore if we accept their revisions, but there are some workarounds, and Ed and Missy can maybe speak to that a little bit more. But overall, we determined it is a much improved 2080. from what we currently have, and it would clarify and clean up some things and provide better workflow and better processes between the city and the county to efficiently move forward with permitting, and hopefully better communication, because we know it would better define who's responsible for what in regards to not necessarily land division, because that's separate, but zoning issues and driveway and building permits and that sort of thing. Because that's all been fairly haphazard, as we've discussed previously. So I can let Missy speak to some of the comments that City of Pelham made, but I think overall we'd be willing to move forward with this as proposed by the City of Pelham. You know, the revisions that they've made. I believe, Mark, you sent that. You sent that on to us, so you had a chance to review.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, some were just some.
Some was wordsmithing and, yeah.
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 So, overall, if we accepted their changes, I think staff would be okay with that, and we have some workarounds and some technical things that we'd have to work out on the side. The other option would be to kind of take a step back and dissolve the 28E altogether. That was a conversation that we had as well in our staff meeting, that Iowa code defines the 2-mile region for land division, but not for planning and zoning. You know, we don't have a planning and zoning extraterritorial area around Knoxville, but we do with Pella.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be a major change from the way things have been handled the past 9 years, but that is an option that I wanted to at least throw out there also.
Hey, Mark, so
Yeah.
one thing I need to correct, Tyler's referring to 2011, which was when there was an amendment. The
Okay.
original 28E went into effect in 2003.
Okay, sorry.
What amendments in 2011, but this has been in effect since 2003.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Missy. I guess a couple of questions for the team, and I don't know who's going to respond to this. Ed, Missy, Tyler. General question. From what you described, Tyler, and what I read, and my major concern is operational, okay? Because we went into this wanting to improve an agreement that had been out there for a while. It was dated, it needed revision. We made the amendment in 2011. We needed to make some changes. Now it's been a number of years. So it sounds like from your perspective, Tyler, and from the team's perspective, operationally, this is an improved agreement. Not perfect, but improved.
Right.
Operationally.
From my department's perspective and what pertains to us, it is much improved, and it defines things more clearly. One of the revisions that Pella did make was to scratch out that the county would do driveway permitting,
Right.
but the design requirements would still be the City of Pella's. One of the things we proposed was the county, because it's still in the county.
Yep.
And the city has a section of code that pertains to areas that get annexed, we would still do the permitting and have driveways constructed per county design requirements, because their code addresses a grace period for anything that's annexed. They have X number of months or years to come into compliance regarding driveways specifically. The city is saying you can have the permitting, which we really want, because we want to approve driveway drainage and location based on our standards, because those are still our roads. But the design requirements, so paving and paving clear to the house, and that would still fall under their building and driveway permitting process and design requirements.
Okay.
So that, I guess that's a decision for you guys. I mean, these are Marion County taxpayers, not City of Pella taxpayers. How do you want to proceed regarding that, making, them follow the City of Pella design requirements?
Well, what's the rationale, and I don't have anybody, I don't think from the City of Pella here, but the rationale would have to be continuity, right? that if you're in these developments that are in this 2 mile area, you want everybody to kind of follow a similar exterior design regarding driveways. You want things paved, you want property values to stay up, those types of things.
And that's
right?
one of the major reasons for the 28E is the continuity for
Right.
for future expansion and, yeah. And one of the reasons we proposed a 1 mile is because extending those design requirements and that continuity 2 miles felt a little bit unrealistic. Or maybe just not necessary at this point. The way we worded it now, the 1 mile area is a little bit smaller, but it would grow with annexation. And we did provide some clarity there that the reach of the 1 mile, if it encompassed a portion of a parcel or a portion of a subdivision, those parcels and subdivisions would be considered entirely within the extraterritorial area. Because currently, for example, Hunter's Ridge.
You've got part of it in, part of it out.
Is and part of it out, and Missy's had to deal with that, and I don't know if that answers.
So, no, it does. So the 1 mile is reasonable from your perspective.
Yes, and that's what we proposed, and that they did not comment on that.
Yeah, no, they kept that in
Yeah,
there, so
they
that,
kept
that takes what was 2 mile down to 1.
Yeah, and I did provide you the existing 2 mile with the sub-area
Yep.
maps, and then also the 1 mile, and then the outer shaded areas around the 1 mile are those parcels and subdivisions that would be considered entirely within.
No, I think, Missy, from your standpoint, it sounds like from Tyler's standpoint,
Mark,
this is.
If I can add to, how
Go ahead,
the
Missy, fire away.
2003 has been, City of Pella has sub-area A where they have total zoning and land division control. Sub-area B where they had land division control, but Marion County had zoning control, which was the area that was extremely problematic. In fact, we're going to use Hunter's Ridge because it's kind of been the problem child, where that was done under their land division control, but it was my zoning jurisdiction, and so that entire we had to variance 25 lots, the setbacks on 25 lots, because it was laid out under Pella zoning ordinance or land division ordinance, but it was our zoning control. So sub-area B's been extremely problematic if they're controlling the land division, but then it comes back. So that this proposal is doing away with sub-area C. Either their Pella has total control of the 1 mile, or it comes back to Marion County. There are some areas that have been within Pella zoning control because sub-area A wasn't just 1 mile. I'm not sure how the original map was laid out. Actually, it was in the works. When I started here in 2001, it was officially adopted in 2003. So, for example, again, Hunter's Ridge, given the map and the proposal of 1 mile, that entire subdivision now comes back to Marion County. So there are areas where Pella's been in total control of. We do 1 mile that's going to come back to Marion County. I mean, we will address those as they come. But so it's going to clear up some things. Either Marion County has control or Pella has control instead of this back and forth. We had a subdivision that took over 1.5 years that went back and forth between the two. So it'll clear up things like that.
So Missy, you're in favor of the changes as proposed in this agreement?
Yes, I mean, we're gonna have some things we have to address. I talked, again, with, there's a few subdivisions that are falling half and half, and those will go into Pella. I just want to clarify with Pella that now the entire Hunter's Ridge comes back to the control of Marion County. We'll have to address those lots that weren't
Right.
addressed in the variance, but we can address those things. But I think for the citizens of Marion County, it will give it will simplify, who do we talk to, who,
Okay.
not so much back and forth.
Okay,
As stated in
Tyler?
our original letter to Pella, your original letter, there will be some technical details and some workflow processes that have to be put into place between our staff and the city staff to incorporate the 2080 as stated, but the definitions of who's responsible for what are more clearly defined, eliminates confusion with the sub areas, and provides continuity, but ultimately it's providing better clarity, like Missy just said, to those residents within this area.
Counselor, any issues as you've seen the agreement?
Give us a second to come online here, Mark. I looked at this agreement. I left the substance up to Missy and Tyler because they're I have a knowledge base that far exceeds mine on what this was trying to accomplish. I looked at it merely from a standpoint of the contract as a whole and whether or not the contract was legally binding. And I think the only contribution I probably made to the contract was putting a sunsets into it in the event that one of us wants out. One of the things my office is working on is some of the contracts that were signed prior to me getting here seem to just exist forever. And there is no exit strategy if only one side agrees with or against the continued relationship. So this contract just has kind of some exit strategies in it in the event either of us want out. It includes arbitration and then a sunsetting for a number of years, but at least it doesn't exist forever.
No, I think that's an excellent add, Ed. I appreciate that.
It's 24 months.
Yeah. Yep. So thank you for doing that. So board, Steve, Keisha, questions for the team, our discussion around the proposal. We do, just for clarity, we don't have to approve. What I would say is that if we agree, we would send this back to the city of Pella and say, we accept your changes. Now we get to that final approval process and see what they think.
I always thought that the current, the current 28E of the extraterritorial area was, I never did understand why it ever came to be the way it was. I always thought it was confusing.
Mm-hmm.
I can't believe that that was agreed upon originally, to be quite honest. Mm-hmm. I mean, I understand that Tyler and Missy's concerns, and I think it does make it a lot simpler, the proposal. And I think it'd benefit both the county and the city. You know, I was always under the impression, Hunter's Ridge especially, you know, we're using that as the poster child. I always thought, well, if somebody wants control of an area, then control it. You know, we have to do the maintenance, we have to do the snow removal. I mean, but yet we don't have authority over a lot of things there.
Right.
I always thought that was confusing and not right. So I'm in agreement with the proposed area, especially since Tyler and Missy believe that it'll work better and clear things up. Mm-hmm. I noticed in what the city of Pella struck out was the nuisance authority, and I understand that that's probably one of the workaround areas that you talk about. Would that be correct?
What was that?
I see where Pella struck out the nuisance authority within that new proposed area.
Yeah, and that's one of the areas where Missy and Bridget had and Ed had discussion in our meeting about workarounds. There are ways to get around that. We had a lot of discussion regarding, I guess we put that in there because if Pella was gonna take full control of zoning, any nuisance enforcement included in their code should be in their zoning ordinance should be included. We didn't want to piece things together and take bits and pieces, which is what the previous 2080 did. It
right.
had some inclusions and some exclusions, and we just wanted Pella zoning in its entirety. But there are some options I laid out in the agenda item document regarding that specific stanza in the agreement, if you wanna have that discussion. That's not my area, that's Missy and.
Right, I mean, it's just something that everybody needs to be comfortable with if we're gonna agree to that.
Steve, I can add to that. So what we on one instance, is that some of the nuisance, and I'm gonna use junk cars because that's the biggest one, is in my zoning ordinance. There was a property in that sub-area A that there was some issues with junk cars. The city of Pella contacted me, and I was informed by council that anything in my zoning ordinance we cannot enforce because we're giving up our right to do so. The workaround would be that we change up or use other ordinances to enforce any kind of compliance issues within that, whether it be Chapter 40 Environmental Health Code or Chapter 41 our General Nuisance Code to enforce any issues in sub-area A.
Well, and I understand that, Missy, but the point I'm trying to make, if Pella wants to control, then control it.
I don't disagree with that, Steve.
Missy, so do you feel that the nuisance clause needs to be in there, or are you fine with it out? I mean, you're more the expert in this area.
I think our team figured out ways that we can address. I mean, we've talked for a number of years that we need to do some updates to Chapter 41, and so maybe it's time that we move forward with making some upgrades to our current nuisance ordinance that we could, address those. So I think we have ways to, if that's the one hang up, I think we have ways that we can address that as we discussed within the group, so.
Well, as long as you guys are comfortable with that.
Tyler, I have a question for you. In regards to the permitting, so Pella has the design, can we make that so it's less problematic for the consumer? So if they're ordering a permit, and Missy too, maybe, the design, are you have to go to 2 different sites then to get approval?
I think that would be part of the workflow that we would have to discuss with the city of Pella. They're gonna be responsible for the building permit, which their building official, whoever does the permitting, does their driveway permitting, unless it needs a review from Public Works.
Okay.
And I don't know what dictates what does and does not need a review from Public Works. My understanding is the building official does the permitting of driveways and building permits. Right now, it's been really haphazard whether we get to review a driveway or not. They've permitted some, sometimes they pass them to us. It's different in specific areas within the extraterritorial area on whether they send them to us or not. So I think it would just be defining, once they get a building permit, just like when we get a building permit, one of the checks and balances for Missy to approve a building permit is verifying whether they need a driveway permit or not from the secondary roads. And so they would just have to incorporate that in. We would do the location and drainage review only as it's being proposed.
Okay.
And then it would fall back on the city. So it would just be, does it meet site distance for this paved road? This portion of T15 or Idaho Drive or T28.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that the residents of Marion County, this is not going to become a bigger problem for them when they want to. Economic development is important, and I want the process to be simplified, I guess.
I think the process will be simplified. As I stated earlier in our very first meeting with the city of Pella over a year ago, there are instances where their design requirements may mean that someone on a gravel road within the extraterritorial area may be required to pave a driveway that's 300 feet long if their house is way back off the gravel road. That would be up to them to make an exception or a variance for that, as it's being proposed. Okay.
Okay, that's what so, and one last thing, so I make sure I understand, Tyler. So this pink area, they would be taking care of that, it wouldn't be splitting that division?
Correct.
Okay.
So those, in the first stanza there, we say parcels or subdivisions partially within the extraterritorial area shall be considered entirely within.
Okay, yep,
And
thank you.
that's what those represent.
So I thought I just wanted to make sure, so.
A lot of those large parcels are public ground, Army Corps of Engineer property, the Pella Wildlife area south of town. That's what those really large parcels are there.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Thank you for everybody that's worked hard on this.
All right, very good. So why don't we do this? And this is just my own, view, and we can sure discuss this. There are some operational things we need to discuss with Pella. Okay, we're willing, the agreement has moved forward. It is much improved over what previously existed. It's clarified many issues, but there are still several that need additional discussion to ensure that whether they are in the agreement or outside of the agreement, we understand who's doing what. So before we approve or sign anything, we need to get those things hammered out. And I think have that discussion. This agreement it's taken a while to do it. There's nothing wrong with that. We need to get it right so that 2 years from now, we're not coming back and saying on those particular issues, they now become the 800-pound gorilla because we had one situation where somebody is upset at the process. So I would suggest that we take what we've done here as a team and say, we're good with all the changes, we're good with what's currently in the agreement, we've got a few suggestions, and we need clarification on these points. And they either have to be in the agreement or they have to be somehow agreed to outside of the agreement. I don't care how it's done. Sound fair, Tyler?
Yep.
Missy?
Yeah,
Ed?
Ed had to go to court, so he's not here anymore.
Okay, Andrew, how do you feel about it?
That's great.
All right, Steve, Keisha, what do you think?
I think that's great. I just, Tyler, are you and Missy able to work together and contact
We'll set
them?
that
And
up, yeah.
Sound reasonable, Steve?
Yes, sounds reasonable.
Okay, very good. Well, with that, would entertain a motion then to instruct our negotiating team to go back to the city of Pella and clarify the few remaining items on the 2080.
So moved.
Second.
Johnner,
Aye.
McCombs,
Aye.
Ramey.
Aye, very good. Thank you for your work on this. Missy, thank you. Bridget, thank you. Tyler, thank you.
Thank you guys, yes.
And Ed in abstention. Or Andrew, his representative. All right. Next item, secondary road department activity update. Tyler, you're up again.
Click on one, click on that.
Yeah, so it's been about 6 months since I've given an update, so I wanted to walk through a couple of projects that have been completed. We completed a bridge replacement on the 80th. We've completed microsurfacing, so we had done a test section of this in Otley about 5 years ago with good performance in the last 5 years. So we've proceeded with doing microsurfacing on some of our old highways, the old 163, old Highway 5 in the Pleasantville, both south and northwest of Pleasantville. It's a crack sealant, surface protectant, keeps the asphalt underneath from oxidizing. So it's just to provide some longevity. It's a little bit, the bids came in a little bit cheaper than Seal Coat actually. And it has more leveling capability than Seal Coat. So we're fairly impressed with the results we've had. It doesn't take away all the bumps and dips because it's only a ½ inch and 2 lifts. So, but it does provide a little bit of ride quality improvement, but then seals up all those smaller cracks and preserves our pavement and gives us a little more longevity until we can do some major rehab. So we're impressed with that. Old Highway 92 and the G46 overlay projects were completed this spring. And those are 2 very much improved roadways if you have not driven them.
Yes.
We had a major slide repair project, about 45-foot deep excavation just north of Melcher on S45. We had a contractor come in and do a great job there. Way more dirt work than we have the equipment capabilities for. And we've had some major culvert repairs, close to $100,000 of grouting and a culvert lining under pavements. You know, this $100,000 is a lot in repairs, but had we had to dig up and replace those culverts, we'd be talking millions of dollars. So we have a contractor come in occasionally and do that sort of work, which provides a huge benefit to us. If you have not been through Highway 14 south of Knoxville on near Weiler Drive this morning, that was completed yesterday. The intersection, if you remember, we had no financial obligation, but we applied for a C-STEP grant to partner with the city's U-STEP grant, which was partnering with the RISE grant to do the turn lane on 14. So we had a turn lane and intersection reconstruction on Weiler Drive adjacent to Highway 14, and that was completed yesterday. I think they're still doing shouldering today, but. And then we had a couple of bridge repair projects north of Pleasant, Pella. So upcoming projects, centerline painting started today, countywide.
Okay.
As I stated on the radio a week ago, that's a long train of construction traffic, wet paint. It's a moving lane closure, so people really need to be cautious when they're approaching. Remember, it's wet paint. There's plenty of signs out there stating that. Seal coating will be starting next week, so this is a lot of our subdivisions, Pershing, Attica, Columbia, and a few other areas. And then our staff has taken on some large diameter culvert projects that take a week or two to do. We have so many of those this year that we canceled a couple bridge projects or postponed, and we're gonna dedicate some contractor funds to do some of those large diameter projects as well. Okay, so some other things that have come up here recently, and Jason can probably speak to this a little bit. So we have traffic safety concerns, and we've done a lot on our side to mitigate. We applied for, I think, the ICAP grant to get the temporary rumble strips. We'll be using those as we're gonna start patching on T15 here in a week. We have the traffic signals, temporary traffic signals that take our flagger out of that exposure situation. We recently applied for another ICAP grant and received the work zone detection devices, which is a pneumatic tube that we lay along our work zone. So when a car crosses over it, the guys wear an alarm that vibrates and sounds an alarm. So they have a couple extra seconds to jump out of the way if a car enters our lane closure. So those are some things we're doing because we know the exposure that and hazards that are presented out there on the highways, as does Jason's team. But we were doing some crash history on some curves and looking for grants to realign curves along T15 for a future project. And I found some staggering numbers in Marion County crash history. So in the last 10 years, our run off the road crashes have increased 56%, with only a 6.5% increase in our vehicle miles traveled. So that's a combination of the number of miles people typically drive and the traffic volumes. So obviously, the first thing that comes to mind would be distracted driving. So what else have we done? Jason and I have our departmental logos on our sign trailer that we are using as a moving billboard to try to make people more aware of distracted driving. And we need to start working maybe with public health, doing some more distracted driving campaigns. Our guys are out there, his guys are out there, fire crews are out there on these roads. And, you know, we can only engineer roads to be so safe. You know, so much of it comes down to the driver's behavior. So just some interesting statistics that I found that I wanted to bring to your attention. Yep.
So with stats, Tyler, depending on how they were recorded in the past. So I guess, Jason, maybe this is a question for you more than Tyler, but is there confidence in the consistency that if we've had a run off the road situation, those are categorized as that it's a pretty consistent methodology?
I would say, yeah.
To count that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would say that the stats are accurate.
Okay.
On this. And I think you can add the distracted, and I think you can also add speed. I mean, it's been, you see it on Facebook posts from the state patrol, you've seen it on different areas. I've kinda had a concentrated effort on my guys here in the last month to work on speed more. And I mean, nick more people. I hate to say that, nobody likes getting tickets, but we need to get some of that speed knocked down on some of these drivers. And I think right along with it, that distracted side of it, and you add 5 or 10 miles per hour to going down the highway or whatever, I mean, things are happening quicker and
Yeah.
accidents are happening, so.
Okay, no, good point.
To your point, Mark, this is a statewide crash analysis tool, so any reported incident that has a sheriff's department or police or state patrol report gets reported. I try not to look at the distracted driving, because as a cause of accident, major cause, because to me, that's a little more subjective. I know a run off the road crash, I know what that means. Cross center line, run off the road. There's other things out there that are potential crashes, lane departures that never get reported because there was no crash, but had there been a work zone there,
Right.
that's a potential crash. You know, that stuff never gets reported. But, so that's why I looked at run off the roads, because I know what that means. It means
So-
somebody left the road that either wasn't paying attention and, you know, or swerved or had some driver behavior. Because it's highly unlikely that it's equipment failure. You just don't see very many equipment failures. Occasionally blown tire will shoot you off the road.
Sure.
So,
Okay,
so just something we need to be cognizant about, make every effort. I'll start working with Jason and Kim, and maybe we can do some more campaigning through our PIO and.
Well, and it's something too, where even you're starting to see it, like Council Bluffs just had a project here last week where they really focused on the move over side of things. And this is something that I wanna work with the local media on to try to figure out, it's really hard because you don't wanna go out and write people tickets in regards to not moving over for emergency vehicles or construction workers or different things. But we have to educate people in order to do that. And I think enforcement is a way that we've tried the banners, I mean, on a lot of different areas. And I
Right.
think we're to the point now where if people aren't yielding to emergency vehicles, I've noticed a difference just in my career, where before, if you were driving head on Highway 92 and somebody saw you come with their lights on, a mile and a half ahead, they would be pulling over the right and stopping or whatever. Now they can see you coming right at them, and there's times they don't even pull over and stop. And it's to the point where we're gonna have to start educating people through enforcement on those type things, because like Tyler said, I mean, whether it be road crews, whether it be firemen, whether it be
School buses even.
school
We've had
buses, I mean, we've
some
nicked
close
people
calls
on
recently.
school, on school buses. And, violations and different things, and we really need to focus on that. And, I mean, I may be getting some more complaints, you guys might be getting some more complaints about people getting tickets for failure to do that, but if we don't do something now to educate people, I'm worried like Tyler is that it's gonna lead to more tragic incidents.
well, and guys, I mean, as far as support goes, I fully support the level of distracted driving. I know just from my travels, I drive a lot for work. That has gone through the roof. People, you can see them driving down the road and they've got their phone in their steering wheel. There's no way you can concentrate on driving when you're doing that. So that number's a little staggering when you think about it, Tyler, that kind of an increase.
It really stuck out, that's why I thought I'd
Yeah,
bring it to your attention.
So-
It is a staggering number.
yeah, absolutely. So a plan, Jason, or is it just starting to look at it based on the numbers and what?
I think what my plan would be at this point, and I agree exactly with what Tyler's saying, I think it's an educational type thing for 2 or 3 weeks, a month, saying, hey, listen, this is the move over, this is the focus, we're gonna give people plenty of warning, or whatever, that this is what the law requires you to do, and if you fail to do that, our enforcement's the next action. I mean, it's kinda,
And I think getting, even when you talk about school bus, I think, you know, with the school wise, I
right,
think this is a great opportunity, time to do that
And
too.
Jason and I haven't talked about it in a while, but there are opportunities for his staff to get overtime through the governor, or. to get-
GTSP, we use
to Governor's
GTSP
Traffic
and,
Safety
yeah, and
Bureau
different things on.
To do
What,
specific
Yeah.
enforcement.
yeah, and our problem, the problem with it is, I mean, society has became kind of like, well, that doesn't really apply to me. I mean, type of a thing. It's like, why would I have to pull over to the right and stop or whatever? There's plenty of room. I mean, they can meet me or whatever. And what the drivers aren't realizing, and it's hard. I understand when you're driving down the road and somebody's coming at 90, 100 miles an hour behind you or whatever. I mean, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I gotta get over to the side.
Yeah,
But there's no excuse for when they see that emergency vehicle coming towards you. And then they're like, well, I'm the only one on the road. But what they fail to realize is the vehicles you're overtaking or the different sides of it. I mean, if they would pull over to the right and stop, I mean, until we go by, it would make things a ton safer. And that's why the law is what it is. So
right.
I think it's educating, and I think there's gonna be some probably talk at the different coffee shops where somebody got a ticket for failure to move over or to failure to yield an emergency vehicle.
Right.
And I hope that discussion on a few of those people getting tickets, I mean, makes the other people think, yeah, this is what the law is and this is what I need to do, so.
No, agreed, guys. Emily, I see a future YouTube video with our sheriff. All right, very good. Tyler, Jason, anything else on this?
No, I got a couple other things.
Go ahead, Tyler.
Spring, summer 2020, the Iowa DOT has sent me a draft version of an agreement for a detour of Highway 92 onto T17. Also haven't mentioned that to you. But
2021 or 2020?
2021, so
Okay.
next spring, summer, they are closing the Muchkina Creek Bridge for replacement just west of Oskaloosa. Their proposed detour is T17 from Highway 92 to 163 at Pella. The predictions are that will more than double traffic on our busiest road, which is already very, very busy. So that will have to be dealt with in itself, just to increase traffic volume.
How long are they thinking?
21 days is the duration.
Okay.
We will get a blanket detour compensation payment, which doesn't amount to much, I think it's like $4,000. They will be doing patching ahead of the project for any existing patches. So they have already marked like 21 patches that they will be doing on T17 ahead of the project to prevent any possible damage due to the overweight vehicles, because they allow up to 156,000 pound trucks. They will be doing bridge ratings on all of our bridges to make sure they can sustain the traffic that a primary route would for heavy and oversized vehicles. So I'm just making you aware that's probably gonna happen. They don't have many other options. Hopefully we can have more discussions about the timeline and how their project is going to, what are they putting in their contract to hold the contractor to 21 days and that sort of thing, so.
That's gonna be quite a bottleneck down there at the bottom of the elevator hill.
It sure is. Now, will people find other ways around? Probably. And, after a week or two, people kind of figure it out and maybe go a different route than the actual posted detour.
Will that intersection have to be widened, do you think, in regards to, I mean, I'm just sitting there thinking on the amount of semi-traffic going right at that corner. that Steve's
Going to
talking
92 onto T17?
No,
Or are
right
you
there,
talking about Elevator Road?
down
Yeah.
to
Elevator Road.
We
Yeah.
we can look at that. So just making you aware of that, there'll be more discussion in the future. I do not have the finalized agreement. Focus 2020, so this, you guys remember me talking about this. This is something just to kind of get our department back on track, try to find some efficiencies and better workflows for all the things that we do. So we're about halfway through the year. Right now we're doing surveys with our crew supervisors. I'm meeting with them and kind of walking through what improvements have we made, kind of where are we at with certain things. We knew, we had a list of 100 things on there that we wanted to try to change and improve upon. we knew we weren't gonna accomplish all those in 2020, but we wanted to start the process or start thinking about them. So in August, we're just getting a kind of a status update on how things are going. Have you seen any improvements? Are there other things that we can be working towards that we didn't previously think about? So Junction 92, if you've been by there on Old 92, you've seen that our dirt work has started. Our crew stripped the sod, and then we have a contractor moving dirt now. This will be to do all of the grading this year, as was budgeted actually the last 2 years and was budgeted this year. Once the dirt work is complete, we'll proceed with utility work, electric, fiber, water, and septic. As we have time, those things are also budgeted. So this is all just in preparation for future development.
Which brings me to a point where I think we've had this discussion before, that it kind of behooves us to somehow putting funds back into that capital improvement line item.
Right.
For future budgets, so at least in future budgets, looking to build that back up. That was one of the funding sources. I had about a third and a third and a third, and then that capital improvement fund was one of the funding sources I was considering. So I would appreciate that consideration during budget time for our project, if not other projects around the county.
Very good.
At least we have the mechanism in place.
That's right.
So
That's right.
Revenue update, last night I received an update from the DOT. We received our July, so regarding road use tax and COVID impacts. So our July road use tax allocation was 50% higher than average for July. They knew that for some reason. There was some lag, and there was a whole bunch of vehicle sales in March or something. August, we've already received that allocation. It was about 25% less than our average, but the net of July and August together is we're still about 5% above our budgeted year to date. So the updated projections from the DOT, they said they would learn a lot after the August allocation. So they sent this out yesterday and said they're estimating over a 5-month period a 10% lower than normal allocation. So the cumulative of the 5-month period would be 10% less. And if you recall, when we first started talking about this and a couple follow-up discussions, I was projecting and planning for a 25% reduction for 3 months, and then a graduated increase back to normal. So we have more than enough funds in our Fund 20 account to accommodate a 10% reduction over a 5-month period.
Okay, good.
So my plan, as I've stated earlier, was to proceed with equipment and projects as budgeted, and with the exception of the motor grader purchase, but I think at this point we can safely proceed with the motor grader purchase as well. That way we can get them here. They are a new machine with new types of controls. I'd like to get the guys acquainted with them before winter.
Agreed. No.
Thank you for.
And then one last thing. I know Lisa is doing the audit, working towards that wage audit. or
The compensation
study.
Yes.
Actually, Mark and I are working
Okay.
on that.
So just a couple things that have been on my board agenda reminder list for a couple of years now. A couple of things to think through. I know you have that on your plate, but if we ever get to a handbook revision, like an employee handbook revision, these are things I've thought of or that my guys have brought up, and some of them have been mentioned before, but a volunteer or first responder policy, countywide volunteer or first responder policy, I'd like you to consider that in the future. 5th week of vacation, or reviewing how that, how and when that 5th week of vacation comes into play.
Okay.
And I think I sent a memo a year or two ago about that, which is fine, just something to consider in the future. And then we've talked in future or previous budget sessions about the bonus concept. You know, Ed mentioned discretionary and non-discretionary last year, and maybe that's something we consider after the compensation study.
Mhm.
But I'd like that to still be on the table,
Okay.
maybe in future budget meetings. And then this recently came up, but maybe it's time to review our per diem if we have travel. I think it was from 2006 or 7 or something like that, so.
You mean it hasn't kept up with?
Inflation.
I don't know, but when it's that old, I think it just needs reviewed, so.
Yeah, yeah.
So-
Do you have all that
I
written
got
down?
it all written down. Yep.
Okay.
Thank
That's all I
you.
got.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Sure, it's all.
All right.
No need to encourage him.
Before Tyler gets anything else, is there a motion to close discussion on this item?
I make a motion, we close discussion.
Second.
McCombs,
Aye.
Ramey,
Aye.
Johnner,
Aye.
Very good, Tyler, thank you, and we will keep those things in mind. Yeah, a lot of stuff to follow up on. Appreciate that. Next item is a discussion and action if necessary on lobbying priorities. Just for everybody's refresher, we did hire a lobbyist specifically for Marion County government. We're very excited to have Kelly be a part of our team. And the goal of the lobbyist is, of course, to provide a little more focused attention on those issues that specifically pertain to our county. Whether it's funding, whether it's some of the boards, some of the other state mandates, those types of things, we need someone up to give attention to those issues that the larger counties have separate lobbyists to do. And we tend to get pushed off to the side a little bit when these larger counties get their way pretty much on anything they want. So the hope is we will have a little more attention to this and be able to advance some of the things that we really care about that really are key to Marion County. So I wanted, as a board, before I meet with Kelly and outline these priorities, to have a discussion on items that are of interest. I do want, I'm gonna lead off with a couple. It's not to steal anybody's thunder, but just to put these on the table and then we can sort through. I'd like 3. For some reason, I like 3. Ronald Reagan spoke in 3s and 3 points to his agenda. I've always liked 3. Too many, you lose focus. But the first is I'd like Kelly to work on tax reform, both income and property. As you know, as I'm sure all of you are aware, property tax statements went out. We have received a lot of emails, phone calls on property taxes. I know Kelly has. Jake, I'm sure you have as well. But we need a reform of that process. A lot of people do not understand how property taxes are calculated. They think the Board of Supervisors controls that entire process, and we don't. It's driven by formulas from the State Department of Revenue. It's driven by other taxing entities, predominantly the school districts. So people need, there needs to be a reform of that process and how much people are taxed. Income tax reform is hand in glove with that. Our state is not competitive when it comes to income tax rates, corporate or individual, or retiree. It's just, that's just a fact that nobody seems to want to admit, but that's the facts. When you get the highest corporate income tax rate in the nation, you're not competitive. It's just that simple. And I don't want to hear any more arguments that people leave the state to go to Florida because of the weather. Because then how do you explain South Dakota's 22% increase in population last year?
Yep.
You've been to South Dakota? I mean, it's not because of the weather, because they have no income tax. So we've got to get competitive, and we need to drive some competitiveness in our tax rates. And the second is mental health. That law has to be changed. I'm not going to go into details right now because it would take the rest of the meeting. But Jason, myself, Rachel, and others have wrestled with this I've wrestled with it the entire time I've been on the board. Marion County taxpayers fund the mental health region to the tune of about $1 million. That's a state mandate. So $1 million of your money goes to other counties to help fund their mental health services. And we are not being well served by the way that law is structured, particularly as it pertains to access centers. But there's more to it than just access centers. So we need some attention to this. This needs to be changed. We need a better bang for our buck for our taxpayer. It's really that simple. So those are my 2.5 priorities that I sure want to have some attention to. Steve, Keisha, have you had a chance to think about what you'd like to discuss?
Yep, my list went, property tax, corporate income tax, so that would be, I had mental health and I had economic development, whether it's funding for the VA, opportunities.
Good point.
So that would be mine.
Good point. Very good.
I'm on board with both of you, because that was part of mine too, was the taxing formula reform. Of course, it wouldn't only affect Marion County, but statewide.
Yeah.
But also, whenever these state mandates are handed down, then I'd like to get some funding for them, whatever they may be.
Right.
That was one of my goals toward the lobbyist. And obviously, what you guys, I had mental health there, but my top 2 was for the tax reform.
Good.
And unfunded mandates.
Unfunded mandates. I think it's a great way to phrase that, Steve.
Yep.
Absolutely. And so I'm glad we're pretty much in sync there. One of the things from a public perspective for the people here, notice that we didn't say anything about more funding for roads and bridges and law enforcement and those things. And there's a reason for that. If we don't grow our economy, so previous to this, county government has been very focused on those specifics, but they forget about they don't deal with where the money comes from. So we try to go after the crumbs to get extra money for roads and bridges and law enforcement or whatever else we need, public health, think about COVID and everything we've done, or emergency management. Instead of thinking about how the dollars are actually generated, well, it's generated through economic activity, plain and simple. And we need to put some pressure on our state leaders to get that message. Otherwise, that's why we always struggle with enough money for roads and enough money for bridges and public health and EMA. Because we need a better environment to promote economic activity and for people to come and move here and stay here and keep their money here and raise their families here. Building schools and building houses, and the data is clear, does not mean economic activity. The primary driver to growth are jobs. Plain and simple, jobs. So I'm glad you guys agree with that, because we need that desperately. And we have an opportunity in this environment to promote Iowa, our cost of living, our healthcare system, and the safety of the state. And our state leaders need to get on their horse and get after it. And we need to push it for our residents here in Marion County. Okay. Very good. So I will consolidate that list. That'll be the course of my discussion with Kelly. I'll add those items that you suggested to that, and we'll go forward with our first test run at this and see how it works. Very good. Thank you. With that, I would entertain a motion to close discussion.
Make motion to close discussion.
Second.
Ramey,
Aye.
Johnner,
Aye.
McCombs.
Aye.
Very good. Next item is just a property tax overview, a little bit of a misnomer here. I want basically to direct people to a video that was done on Friday. We don't have it here, we're not going to show it here, but I did a YouTube video with Kelly Kingery, our assessor, to talk about property taxes. So Emily, if you could provide the link to the media folks after the meeting, that would be great. This week is part 2 of that, where I will be talking with our esteemed
That's right.
our esteemed colleague Jay Grandia, our county auditor, and talk about levy rates from a county perspective. But as I have answered people's questions on property taxes, and Jake will correct me because he always has for 7 years, almost 8 now. But if you look at the split on where your property tax dollars go, about 48% in Marion County, this is averaged, about 48% goes to your school districts. Close, Jake?
Yep.
About 23 to 25% goes to municipalities. About 18 to 19% goes to the county. And then you have other taxing authorities, the assessor, community colleges, townships, they make up the rest. So people need to understand where their property tax money goes and who drives property taxes. We collect it. Michaela does a wonderful job and her staff does a wonderful job providing that service to all of our municipal entities to collect property tax. But that does not mean the county is the sole driver of it. So we'll refer you to that video. We'll provide the link. I think Kelly did really a great job talking about it from an assessor's perspective. And then this week I'll be talking with Jake about levy rates from a county standpoint and how that money is distributed. And then the week after that, and she doesn't know this, we'll be talking with Michaela on the collection of property taxes. So it's a 3-part series on property tax.
I think, yes, I thank you guys for your willingness to do that. I that's wonderful, because it's so important. The amount of calls that I received, I have sent an email, talked to John, sent an email to Amy and to Dustin, to tell them that this is something that I don't want it to be, this is a supervisor legislative, situation where we're just at odds. Let's work through this. This process needs to be reviewed. So I did send an email because I think it's important. There's a lot of people that do not understand the process. So when I saw that, I shared that because it is so important. So share that with others so that they understand the process.
We will be doing some more notifications. So Kelly and the assessor staff will be working on when the assessor statements go out. Remember, in April, when those statements go out, that is the time to dispute your assessment. And so Kelly reiterated that in the video, and we will provide extra notification before the next statements go out. So people are given a heads up. You really need to look at this. Don't just throw it away or set it aside or think it doesn't mean anything, because it does. And so pay very close attention to those statements when they go out, but we'll have more information on that as we go forward. So I'll look forward to my conversation with Mr. Grandy. All right, very good. Entertain a motion to close discussion on this item.
Make motion to close discussion.
Second?
Johnner,
Aye.
McCombs,
Aye.
Ramey.
Aye. Next is the FY 19-20 annual report, Marion County Treasurer, Michaela.
Okay, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Well, I can hear you, Michaela, yes, go ahead.
Excellent. First of all, thanks for the heads up on the YouTube video.
You're welcome.
So what this is, I present to the board every 6 months, obviously at the end of December, the semi-annual report, and then sometime after July 1st, the annual report. This is just a snapshot of our financial situation at those 2 given points in time. I'm required by ancient Iowa code to present this to the board.
Iowa code.
I love it.
It's written in stone somewhere.
Literally.
So, it's not that these reports are not important, they are, but this is a culmination of the information that Jake and I present to you monthly when we do our standard month-end reporting procedures. This is all the same information, it's just presented to you in a different report.
No, thank you, Michaela. And this is, our auditors look at this too, don't they, Jake?
Yeah, they make sure that Michaela has done her duty in filing these with you guys, and that they match the same as ours. So yes, they look at this to make sure it's been done and published, and then to make sure it matches. So this report here, when you were talking about property taxes, not to get off on that, but this actually shows all the funds. This isn't just county funds. This is everything that Michaela takes in, because she takes in and apportions out a lot of different directions. So this is like a snapshot in time of the cash that she had in hand and everything they have to deal with that then gets distributed out once a month, all those things. So this isn't just Marion County, this is all collections that she takes in and then sends out. So that's what this picture is, more than just a county fund only.
Yep, no, that's a great point, great clarification, Jake, thank you, very good. So Michaela, do you need a motion that we've received this?
I do, yes.
To go with the written in stone tablet ancient Iowa law? Okay, I would entertain a motion on receipt of the 1920 annual report.
I make motion, we approve the receipt of the FY 2019-2020 annual report from the treasurer.
McCombs,
Aye.
Ramey,
Aye.
Joner.
Aye.
Very good, thank you, Michaela. Next, we have a discussion on ATV, UTV regulations for Marion County. Sheriff?
So, this is something that's been in the works for, we discussed this probably about 2 or 3 years ago. There's been quite a few different citizens around Marion County that have had an interest in operating UTVs legally on the county roads versus going for rides and breaking the law per se. Iowa Code 321I allows boards of supervisors to designate roadways that UTVs can be operated on. I had a discussion with Karen yesterday afternoon, with Tyler. What this is in front of you is a draft of what I kind of put together with working with Tyler, and then I ran it by Karen on some just ideas for a draft ordinance for operation of those UTVs. One of the things when you go down through here, certain things, I mean definitions, operations on roadways, what we did is Tyler actually, how many years ago was that? 2 years maybe? 2 years ago, put together a lot of the different ordinances from other counties. I don't know if you guys remember seeing that or not, but what I tried to do is, with my background with the DNR and also now as the sheriff, I tried to combine what I thought were some of the better aspects of those county ordinances, working with Tyler. We sat down yesterday and discussed speeds, we discussed the operations, what was legal, what wasn't legal, roadways. I talked to Karen in regards to some counties, I mean, charge just what the DNR charges for registrations. Other counties add a fee on top of that. So we kind of had a brief discussion on that. But this is a rough draft of what we kind of felt was, or what I should say, I'll speak for myself, what I felt was the best in regards to that. I believe there's maybe a few people, if they're still with us on the phone, that have expressed interest in doing something like this. And this was kind of that starting point. I don't know if something, I haven't had Ed review this in regards to the legal side of it. But I believe, unless he's had a chance to do it on his own. But I guess this is open for discussion.
Okay.
Thoughts, ideas. One of the main things that I guess on looking through this, when Tyler and I were looking at it, obviously is the safety aspect of it. It's something that we don't want people getting hurt, but we do want people to be able to utilize the UTV side of it. So some of the things as you go down through, I put a little higher age restriction in regards to it. And part of the reason I did that is because of past experience when I was with the DNR, and a lot of the accidents I went to were kind of that, more of that riskier group from 16 to 21 operation is where we saw a lot of the accidents. So this does have restrictions in regards to that age group, that they have to be under adult supervision of somebody that is 21 or older. Some of the other counties obviously have less age restrictions on that. The registration side of it, like I mentioned earlier, that's something more for Karen, I guess, on her side of it. I didn't want there to be a lot of extra work for the recorder's office on going through and putting out different registration stickers than what's already required in regards to somebody to operate on a road ditch per se. But that's, I guess, more for Karen to kind of talk about on that. And I think she put together some information from other recorders on there. So all of those are just things for discussions. So I don't know if you wanna just go through it, if you guys have had a chance, if you wanna just kinda dive into it and ask questions, or, what approach you guys wanna take in regards to it.
Yeah, I guess I'm open to either way. Steve, Keisha, how would you like to approach it?
I would like to discuss a little bit and then maybe, have it for maybe a full action, maybe the next meeting or whatever, so we can at
Okay.
least,
Yep.
yeah, so.
That's fine.
yeah.
So, yeah, if you've got some questions for the sheriff and,
So Jason, you've put is there a limit, like a speed limit type thing? I was trying to remember.
45.
That's what I
Yeah,
was trying to
yep, it's
figure
a
out where
max
that was.
speed.
Okay.
What we put under is in regards to, you can't operate at a speed in excess of the posted speed limit. So if it's somewhere where it's less than 45, you can't go over
Right.
that. But with a max speed of 45 miles per hour.
Okay.
And Tyler and I, when we talked about that, we were trying to come across with something where it didn't cause more accidents by requiring somebody, to go 25, but yet it didn't, some of these machines, will do 70. And we obviously didn't feel that was appropriate either. So we tried to come across with a speed that we thought was reasonable, and that's where the 45 came in.
Okay.
45 isn't unheard of in other county policies. 35, there's a lot of 35s. But again, to Jason's point, sometimes slow-moving vehicles cause more accidents than those that are trying to keep up. So that's
And-
why I recommend the 45 also.
And this is strictly on UTVs. We're not addressing ATVs at this point. So I want to
Correct.
make sure media understands that
Yeah,
our discussion.
UTVs, and the reason that, UTVs have become very popular. That's, when you look a lot of the other counties, the different rides, as a matter of fact, our next agenda item talks about a UTV ride and different things that are there. I personally, and this is just my own personal opinion, I believe that the ATV side of it, is more dangerous. That's something that you guys, if you wanna go down that road, and look at those things, you can, but part of the reason that I thought to start with the UTV is to, give it a chance to see once, without throwing all the different UTVs, ATVs, everything else into it, start with this, and then you can always expand if it's successful. But I didn't wanna, muddy the waters in regards to that, is why we stuck with the UTV side.
Nope, that's fine. And I'm in agreeance. I do feel that UTVs we should be addressing this. Yeah.
On the age limit, Jason, are we in conflict, or are we more restrictive with that than, is there anything in the Iowa code that speaks to that?
So there is, you're allowed operations in regards to ATV parks, different sides of it, but you have the authority as the Board of Supervisors, I believe, to regulate how you want it for the county roads. When you open this up or whatever, it is, in my opinion, more restrictive on having it at the age of 21 than what you see in some of the other counties to have. But once again, I think that you give it a shot with the older age restrictions, and then if we don't have problems, you could always lower it. By
Yeah, I don't have a
changing.
problem with it, I just wanna make sure we're not in conflict with, until we get some legal,
Yeah,
you know.
I believe you have the authority to regulate what ages you want.
And we obviously could have Ed review.
Yes,
Yes.
yep, on that side of it.
A lot of counties require they have to have a driver's license. They have to have it registered with the DNR through, our office, so they have to be titled and registered.
Yes, and also along with that, proof of insurance.
Right.
It's one of the unanimous things that you saw through it or whatever, when we were looking at the other counties, is a lot of them require proof of insurance on the UTVs, that when it is registered to provide that in case there is an accident or different things down the road. And that mirrors the motor vehicle side of it.
Karen, how is the fee? Is that something that?
So basically, what I studied was about 50 counties have ordinances for this, and 14 of them charge a fee. One charges just a flat $10 fee. You register it once and you're good. But the rest of them are a yearly fee, and they go anywhere from $10, $15, $25, $30 to $50.
Okay.
The majority of those are done through the recorder's office. One county is through the sheriff's office, 2 are through the engineer, where they have to, they have to go there and get their sticker. I just thought I'd throw that out. So basically what it would be is we would order stickers. A lot of counties mirror what the DNR sticker is for that year. So if it's orange and white, then the county would be white and orange. But some just pick a random color. But it's a smaller sticker that they would purchase and have to put on their machine, and that would allow them.
That would
do
allow
that.
them on county road.
Right.
If they're issued through county recorder's office, are they valid in DNR sites?
No.
No.
So that's the question on where some of the counties and some of the discussions are. I mean, if it's about allowing operation versus the revenue is one thing that really has to be decided or whatever, because most of the ones require you to be registered through the DNR, which then the DNR allows that operation on other areas.
In parks.
Yep, you have certain counties, or even like the city charges a $25 fee to operate inside the city, then you have somebody else. So it's my recommendation would be you do the DNR registration, and once it's registered through the DNR, that's enough. But it's a revenue thing for you guys to decide how much do you wanna try to make money off of the allowing somebody to do it, or do you just want to allow them to do it? Because the state side of it, I mean, you're gonna have a registration, and Karen and I were talking about, what, is it about 35
It's
bucks?
about $30, well, $29 to title and register. And then, of course, they only title it the one time. Once it's titled. Registration is every year. And they also pay the sales tax, either to the dealer or to us, who do it for revenue finance.
Would it be safe to assume that probably most people that want this are probably just gonna want to drive on the road? They're not gonna go to a designated park area to hill climb.
It's hard to tell. I think there's probably gonna be a mixture, I mean, on different people that are gonna have different things.
Does DNR registration require proof of insurance?
No. They do not.
So that would be an additional
That would be an addition.
check.
Well, usually those you're going because you're planning on tearing it up anyway.
Yes.
Or does that mean that you just have to have proof of insurance
Maybe on you.
on the vehicle, or,
You have to have proof of insurance on it.
okay,
That-
would be required for the registration?
But yeah, that's not required by us.
What are your thoughts, Gary?
From what I'm hearing from other recorders, it's not a huge moneymaker, which is probably why only 14 out of the 50 are doing it. The other discussion that a lot of counties are having is, okay, so if Mahaska County is doing this and they're registering, will we honor their sticker? Will we honor their sticker that it is registered, or will we make them also have a Marion County sticker if we go with the stickers?
Well, I think you would do it by county. I think they would
Yeah,
be required to
yeah,
have it.
you're not supposed
If you decided to go that way. If you went with just the DNR registration, then I would say that they would have to abide by our ordinance when they came
Right.
over, but you wouldn't require the sticker.
Karen, if you did this, if this is something you take on, would you be able to handle it with the current staff you have?
Absolutely. I don't foresee it being a lot. It's probably something people will do when they register their ATVs anyway.
Obviously, we don't think it's much of a revenue generator, so which is cleaner and simpler, the DNR route? Or-
Absolutely. But I mean, it's not, I don't foresee it being a big deal for us to do either way. And we're willing to do it, whatever you decide.
If they did the DNR route, Jason, they'd have to apply through mail to.
Actually, it'd be through the recorder's
No, they
office.
do that
We
for
just
me.
go- yep,
Yeah,
we
they do
just
that
do it
for me to
that,
start
yep.
with.
So
Okay.
all would be is instead of requiring them to have 2, you would just require them to have the DNR registration, but it would still be through Karen's office.
So this
It's
is, like Jasper County, this is what their sticker looks like. It's smaller than the DNR sticker, but it has to be on. And they do have an application that the customer fills out when they get their sticker. So they have to fill out an application to register it anyway, so it's another piece of paper, another sticker.
So make me
5
understand a
minutes
little
more
bit
time.
better why Jasper County would want and maybe why we would want this, if you already have to do it with the DNR, correct?
Mhm.
Why do they want that also for a county?
The extra money.
For the extra money, but if you have the DNR sticker, you can still drive on the roads?
Not
No.
without, depending on
That's where
what,
I'm getting, okay.
that's what allows you to do.
Okay, that's, all right, that's the
where
clarity I needed,
you-
okay.
Once you do this ordinance, if you decide to do that, that allows that operation side of it or whatever, and you can decide, is the DNR sticker enough, or do you wanna charge more for them? Just like the city of Knoxville has decided they're gonna charge X amount of dollars for inside the city
The
limits.
DNR sticker is an annual sticker, isn't it?
Yes,
Yeah.
for those it is. And for like farm use, it allows you to go from farm to farm.
They're exempt.
That's
Already.
exempt,
Yep.
yeah, that's
Yes,
exempt.
that's exempt.
Under the agricultural side of it, farmers can use it without any of this in regards to
Right.
going to do their ag side of it. This allows more for somebody to go down and check their brother-in-law's house or whatever, I mean, and to drive the ATV down the road when they're not farming.
Or take the sprayer.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing with it is that Tyler and I have talked about this, there's a lot of people that, I mean, it's really hard for enforcement to
Yeah,
know if
that's what I was
somebody
gonna
has a
get
sprayer
at,
in back,
ask about
one
enforcement.
way or the other. I think by doing this and allowing some of that age restrictions and some of those things on there, that will help us to be able to say, listen, you're 17 tearing up the gravel road, you're not farming, go home. I mean, not only are you not buying the ag side of it, but you're also not doing what the county ordinance allows you to do. So those are things,
It's just gonna give us a little more control enforcement.
yes, and it's gonna allow people that, I mean, to operate legally
Right.
instead of illegally.
Right.
I mean, that's the people that wanna take the chance, that it's like, I'm gonna drive from here down to my neighbors and see what they're up to.
Right.
And then, I mean, we either stop them and say, hey, are you farming? And they say, no, I'm going down to my neighbors, well, they're in violation. I mean, so, my only concern on it would be, and I think that is something we have to evaluate and look at, I mean, on probably an annual basis for a while, is, chances for accidents. I mean, that doesn't mean that you're going to have those or not, or whatever, and I don't want that to prohibit it, because I think that's why we went through and looked at a lot of things that are there. But if all of a sudden, I think if we're up to 50 counties that have it, I don't think there's been a huge increase in those number of accidents because of it. Otherwise, I think you'd see those counties backing off or whatever on it. So I wanna give it the opportunity, I mean, not to say that we still have accidents now that happen, I mean,
If they're gonna go,
Yeah.
they're gonna go either way.
but this, I think, allows us to, I mean, put things more down on paper together. And I think you have a lot of support of it. I mean, it's something where I've been approached as a sheriff by numerous different people saying, hey, I mean,
Sure.
we wanna be able to do this, and
We
the
did,
law allows it.
we did put some provisions in there about reckless behavior, reckless and or
Yeah, 'cause the charges,
destructive
yeah.
behavior.
Defacing county roads.
Yes.
And also limiting the use on pavements, so you can't just jump on a highway and run down the shoulder. If
Right.
there's a mile section, over a mile section, like a gravel road that parallels, that's your route.
It allows that access to those gravels, cause there's certain areas that you have to be able to get to that gravel, but it doesn't, just like Tyler said, it doesn't make operation on a paved roadway your primary.
Do we need to
road.
do anything on roads that are state-wise? I mean, is there,
We talked about that, we prohibited all 4-lane, like the interstates, and, I mean, anything that's divided, I
Other
mean,
than crossing over.
other than a direct crossing or whatever, but we didn't allow operation on those.
Okay.
I mean, just because obviously, I don't see a need for one to be on 163 or some of those areas that I think with traffic, I mean.
Sure. They don't allow snowmobiles to do that anymore, do they, Jason?
They do on certain ones, that,
Oh, they
it
do?
depends on, there's certain areas that are still, I mean, the interstate side of it or whatever, they've really tried to crack down on, but once you kinda get back down into the highway, Highway 5, 163 and stuff, you'll still see, I mean, some that are on there, and it's hard for the DNR guys, cause a lot of times that snowmobile operations at night during a blizzard.
Yeah.
Or whatever, I mean, so.
right?
They're,
If we could have Ed review, I would,
yeah, I would like Ed to go through it, I mean, obviously Jake, with his help, going through, and I wasn't quite sure on the process, and I
Yeah.
know we were kind of discussing, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jack, you said you guys could take action today, but I think obviously with public comment, setting it up, I mean, getting it through to develop, I mean, and adopt the, ordinance or, I guess, per se. We also, Tyler and I looked at which chapter under our county ordinances, and we feel this should be a new one. Instead of trying to put it under a different ordinance somewhere or
Sure.
different things, that
Okay.
we should just develop a new chapter.
Similar to fireworks,
Jake.
separate
Yeah, I
ordinance.
was just gonna say, so if it's a, this is, again, I'm not, first of all, have Ed review it, please, but from a processing standpoint, if it's a new chapter in our ordinance book, and Ed will have to confirm this, but I believe that will take a public notice in the newspaper, a public hearing, and 3 readings.
Okay.
Yep.
So you could start that process as soon as you could get that publication. That was kind of the discussion we had. Was this just a resolution that you could approve now, or just in a single step, or is it an ordinance? And it sure sounds a lot like it's an ordinance.
That's what it sounds like.
So that's something that needs to be confirmed with Ed, and then they'll have to write that language, and then that would go in the code of ordinance book in the official law or whatever.
Yeah, so
So just confirm that.
Yep, okay.
So I don't think we need to take any action on this right now, other than a thank you for the exposure that we're at this point. But then once you get a chance to get with Ed, go through that process and start the formal ordinance approval process. I would just encourage you to go down that road, Jason, and get ready to do that.
My only question on it, and I guess this is for you 3 on it, do you believe that it should be the revenue side of it, or should we just adopt the DNR?
Well, that's,
I mean-
yeah, that's about where we're at. I think we're all kind of in agreement that we're not opposed to it, is how we're going to implement it. whether
I would probably, then what I will do, if that's kind of where you guys are at, I will tweak that last section in regards to identification stickers. The way that this is, kind of talk about having a separate fee for the
Yeah.
county on it. But I will tweak that in regards to it just being the
I think-
DNR, is that?
I think I would leave it up to Karen what she's comfortable with, and I'd be happy with what she's comfortable with. I mean,
Well,
I thought you had to have,
I'll weigh it.
yeah,
I see this as such a small,
yeah,
we generate enough revenue from our people.
Okay,
So let's go with the DNR process, Jason,
okay.
that's where I'm leaning.
and
Okay.
do that.
That way,
I like
We
that.
don't need to tack on more
no
fees.
hassle for you.
So-
You know, and I'm not worried about the work involved, because I think it will be minimal and we can absolutely handle it. But I totally agree with you. I think it's gonna be minimal. It's not gonna be a big revenue driving force for us, so
Yeah, Karen, if
Give
you
the
said,
people a break.
if you said this is a brand new process for us, we don't have the system, we'd have to
Yeah.
bring on staff, it'd be a different discussion.
Right.
Because we have to find some way to pay for this,
exactly,
but I'm not hearing that from you at all.
no.
Okay.
Okay, then I will tweak that, I'll run it by Ed, and then, we'll try to keep it, on kind of a continuous basis on the Board of Supervisor agenda to move forward with it.
Sounds great.
thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, guys. Appreciate it. We'll entertain
Did
a
you
motion.
wanna, is there anybody that had public comment that you were waiting on that wanted to talk, or do you wanna
Let's wait till the ordinance process, because
Okay.
there will be a public notice
comment
period.
side of it down the
Yep.
road? Okay.
So let's go ahead and, would entertain a motion to close discussion on this item.
Make motion, we close discussion.
Second,
Ramey,
Aye?
Johnner,
Aye.
McCombs.
Very good. Thank you.
Yeah, last thing on it too, I did put an effective date to try to, by October 1st, was kind of the goal or whatever, as we continue down the process with it.
Yeah, if you guys move forward, Jason,
I
we'll
think
get
you
it on
have
the
to-
next several BOS
Just keep
meetings.
it going.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Next, we have resolution 2020-62, Seeds of Hope.
Justine, I believe it. Justine, are you on the phone with us?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Do you want to do this, or you want me to do it, or why don't you go ahead? Kind of just explain the background, and then I'll back you up.
Sure thing. Thank you. My name is Justine Stevenson. I live southeast of Knoxville, and I am the president of the Seeds of Hope Foundation. The Seeds of Hope Foundation was created in 2019 in memory of Chasen Stevenson, with a mission to serve young farm families that are diagnosed with long-term illnesses. And so we provide financial support through various means. We do multiple fundraising events throughout the year, and last year, if the board recalls, we had our first annual Seeds of Hope Ranger Ride and Poker Run scheduled in September. And so the route for this year's ride, we're planning on Sunday, September 13th. The route that we're proposing is very similar to the route that we did last year. However, we've made some modifications, so we will not be crossing any state highways. Last year, we crossed both Highway 5 and Highway 92, and this year we will stay south of those highways and those intersections. So gravel route, basically from my farm down to Melcher, southern Marion County, and then back to my farm. We abided by the rules presented or approved by the board last year. So in regards to ages of the individuals that were driving the Rangers and along with the speed limit, but essentially kind of proposing the same plan as last year, just kind of modifying that route for a little bit, a shorter route. And again, one where we don't have to cross any state highways. So
Great.
I will answer any questions if the board has any, or Jason, if I missed anything, if you want to go ahead and fill in.
No, I think obviously last year we had no problems with it. It was very successful. They did a good job on organizing it. They also, there was certain things that I asked, obviously, on the use of alcohol or different things. They addressed that. There was no questions ahead of time or whatever, where they talked about wanting to be a good family ride on it. So I don't expect anything different this year. I mean,
Thank you. Board,
Do I
Steve,
right now?
Keisha, any questions for Justine or the sheriff?
Tyler might have had a
Could
question.
I get a copy of that map just to ensure we don't have any construction closures
Sure,
during our ride?
absolutely,
Yeah, we'll get to it.
Yeah,
Yep.
no,
absolutely.
I don't have anything.
Steve?
No, I'm okay with that.
We, just so you know, I had Chad, my administrative assistant, try to tweak it with Justine. I believe you and Chad kind of worked together on the current route there, and that should be, we just kind of mirrored what you guys did last year on that. And that was the correct route, wasn't it, Justine, that you guys talked
Correct.
about there?
Correct.
Yeah, so it should be that, should be in front of you and corrected with the new route on that.
Yep, I got that. Yep.
Good.
So,
Good. Okay, well, if there are no further questions, I entertain a motion to approve resolution 2020-62.
make motion, we approve resolution 2020-62.
Second?
Jake?
Johnner,
Aye.
McCombs,
Aye.
Ramey.
Aye, very good. Thank you, Justine. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Justine.
Yes.
Thank you,
Thank
good luck.
you. Thanks.
All right. Item number 8, updates. Mr. McCombs.
I have none.
All right. I was gonna give you a drum roll there, but I guess I don't have to do that. That was pretty quick. All right, Ms. Johnner.
P&Z last night, looking at Lely, city said that they would be coming to us soon, annexation in regards to Lely.
Okay.
So I'd be expecting that. Yeah, so I have a couple other meetings this week, but nothing else to update on.
Okay, very good. Yeah, only, again, remind everybody to check out our Marion County YouTube page for the assessor update video. Again, I thought Kelly, I really appreciate her joining me on that. Did a great job, and we'll look forward to the next 2 installments with Jake Randia and Michaela Bigowet being the people in the hot seat. So that was good. The only other thing is we have had a spike in coronavirus cases in Marion County. It's been, I think, reported on widely, but we want to keep everybody in the loop that Kim and the public health folks are doing yeoman's work, doing contact tracing and staying on top of all the various issues. And still, even with the spike, Kim, where are we at total cases for Marion County right now, active?
Active is we've got about 88 cases that are active. We've got about 22 that are new that we're working on today. So, and we have about, we're behind about 20 cases or so.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, in the neighborhood of 130,
I was gonna say, so if you look at everything all in, we're probably around 130.
yeah.
Again, remember, that's in a county of 34,000 people. We had a major event take place. Folks need to remember the same behaviors that Kim and I have been talking about since this began, which is social distancing, wash your hands, stay at home when you're sick, wear a mask when appropriate, if you cannot socially distance. So if we do that, we should see this spike begin to decline over a period of a couple of weeks. So, but Kim, thanks to you and your staff, everything that you guys are doing, and I know you're working with Jeff and the emergency management folks. So that is all I have.
Okay.
Anything else, board? Steve?
No.
All right. With that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
McCombs,
Aye.
Amy,
Aye.
Johnner.
Aye.
Very good. We are adjourned.